Hey everybody, welcome back. And this video is going to be part 3 of what the winter temps do to PCP air guns. And with that said, I'll be using the Air Venturi Avenger in 22 cal in this video because I've been testing with the Aquila in the past part 1 and part 2 and found some things out about it. And if you don't know, just a little recap, it seemed that the scope shifted on this gun, the Simmons scope, 3-9x40. So what I'm gonna do is swap it over and put it on the Air Venturi Avenger 22 and see similar results as we did in previous tests to figure out what's the deal about these winter temps. Because again, I've had a lot of good feedback on these videos. A lot of you mentioned the cold weather affects the scopes and have asked about what happens again with regulated air guns versus unregulated air guns. So with that said, let me get this Simmons scope mounted on the Air Venturi Avenger and take some shots to see what it looks like. Okay, the Simmons scope is mounted on the Air Venturi Avenger. Scope and gun have been outside. Now I'm going to take 5 shots at 50 yards. There's 5 shots, 50 yards, testing initial, point of impact. Now, take the gun inside Air Venturi Avenger and let it warm up to room temperature from freezing temps and test again. Okay, gun is at room temperature. Gun has been inside the house for over 30 minutes to warm up. Get you back in here and take 5 more shots. Woo! Well, same as last time, guys. Point of impact shifted way up on the last group I did with this gun on part 2, and you can see it happened again, and the scope did not shift. So the group is directly vertically in line, literally, with the previous constant group of 5 shots of leaving the gun outside. The only difference is the air temperature in the air cylinder increased due to taking the gun inside at around a 70-degree room temperature. Wow. So as you can see there, from taking the Air Venturi Avenger inside and warming it up and bringing it outside and then letting it cool down and shooting it again, I'm getting the same exact results as using the Barska scope that was originally on it. So what does that mean? Well, obviously, the scope is not moving because it's just vertical shifting downrange, which again, that was the same result that I was getting using the original scope in this experiment. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and do a plumb line test at 10 feet away and leave the gun inside to warm it up and bring it back outside, because that's what happened to the Aquila. The scope shifted when I brought it in and warmed it up and then brought it back outside and cooled it down to the temperatures below freezing. And then the scope showed that it did shift to the right, even at 10 feet. So I'm gonna show you that now. So I brought the Air Venturi Avenger back inside for over 30 minutes now, and now it is in the bog pod out in the garage, and I'm going to see if the reticle shifts just like it did on the Aquila when I did this last time in part 2, where I got it set up on the plumb line down there, and it ended up shifting more to the right from pulling the gun inside to outside. So we got that pretty much centered there, as you can see. Pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit out here for about 20-30 minutes and come back and check on it, because then the gun will be the temperature of the outside. And it's, again, about a 50-degree difference from a 70-degree inside the house to out here where it's 20 degrees or less. So I'm going to let this sit and see what happens. And this will determine whether or not it's the actual scope or something else. Well, guys, as you could see here, it did not shift. This Simmons scope did not shift on the Air Venturi Avenger, even after 30 minutes of being out here, cooling down to the outside temperature of around 20 degrees. So, something is going on with the Benjamin Aquila and how the scope is mounted to it to cause the scope to shift at different temperatures, from shooting it at colder temperatures to warming it up and then bringing it back outside, shooting again the Aquila 22 Benjamin with this Simmons scope. The Simmons scope mounted on this Avenger, again, did not shift, just like it did on the Aquila, the same test. And the Avenger grouped low and then grouped high when I brought it in, same exact way it did in the previous video. So the question remains, why does the Benjamin Aquila seem not so consistent in the colder temps? Well, it boils down to one thing: it is unregulated. As you've seen, the Air Venturi Avenger, it groups very consistent, whether the air in the cylinder is cold or the air in the cylinder is warmed up. You can see that it's literally vertical, the groups are from each other. Whereas in the Aquila, it's more of like a slant. It wants to shoot groups up in the upper left or the lower right. And that is just the nature of the beast of being an unregulated air gun, for one. Number two, with the colder temps, we did notice a shift in the scope with this Aquila, and the reason for that is because the scope rail. You can see here, I'm literally bending this with my fingers, and you add weight to it, and once metal starts getting cold and shrinkage occurs, anything is possible. So that is one issue that I have found with this Aquila, is that the scope rail is not perfectly over the top and centered of the barrel. So if it does shift, the whole scope is going to shift with it, and that's a problem. And I've known this since I've gotten it from day one. I noticed it when I unboxed it. It was just a hair off. But in the winter time and the colder temps like this, when it's literally below freezing, metal properties change. So that is why, if you have this gun, you may see a significant shift and blame the scope. But what it came down to is, it's not the scope. What it actually is for both of these guns, because both of them have a POI shift, regulated air guns have a vertical shift, and unregulated just basically shoot wherever. There's no telling. It's the air temperature of the cylinder. So it seems in this colder temp out here that the warmer air in the cylinder shoots the best. And the reason why, for one, I chronographed both guns from being inside temperature shooting outside and being left outside and shooting outside. There is a 30 to 40 feet per second difference in a 5-shot group, guys, from both of these guns. regulated or unregulated. And the thing about unregulated is, with the temperature fluctuation like that, hammer spring and valve tuning and all that is out the window, because 3,300 psi at 70 degrees temperature versus 3,300 psi fill at 20 degrees temperature is a big difference. And that's why you see a lot of dispersion downrange, and it looks pretty much like a shotgun spread out of an unregulated air gun, where you could see the regulated air gun, the Air Venturi Avenger, had nice clusters just at vertical locations, due to the fact that the feet per second was different in different shooting situations. So I hope you understand this, guys. I appreciate you watching and understand my process of elimination of how I got to this point. Again, is it possible that the scopes could be off? Probably, but both of these scopes in this video were not, the Barska and the Simmons. So you just have to test it all out to make sure that you can say with 100% certainty that it's this or that. And what it came down to in both guns, as you've seen it, is the air temperature. So again, it's nice to have a gun that actually works and is a real proven example like this Air Venturi Avenger being regulated. I appreciate you guys watching as always. I hope you got something from this video. See you on the next one.